Hello and welcome to another episode. I just want to say very formally that we are very happy that you pushed play just now. I am envisioning you starting your run. You are 20 steps into your run now, and I get to join you. Eddie gets to join you.
Yep.
And we're going to have some good conversation. We're going to maybe laugh a little bit. But as always, I just like to say, well done for showing up for your run. Now, if you are slipping into the car, if you are stepping into the gym, you're lifting weights, well done showing up today in whatever activity that it is. I just love that we get to join you. Special shout to our youth listeners. What is up, kids? Eddie and I are so happy that you are here, at least for the intro. I know, not all the kids stick around for the entire 2 and 3 hour podcast, but we love any minute that we get with you. And we just want to say that we are proud of you and we're excited for the goals that you are setting for yourself. And we love you.
We do. We love you.
Ed, what was today like?
What
has the morning been? You know, it's 1:00 right now. And I think that the past couple weeks you keep saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already. And then you say the time of day it is. Do you feel like the days are flying by? I mean,
yes.
What happened today? Because I feel like you and I got up so early in the morning.
Well, today we got up at 6 a.m. ish and decided to head down to the beach.
Yeah.
And we got some steps in.
We got our steps in.
Had a coffee.
I
got a filtered soul from Phil's, and I got it sweet and creamy with oat milk. It's my go-to right now.
Big shout to Thomas over at Phil's.
Big shout to Thomas.
Big shout. If you ever go to Phil's Coffee in Huntington Beach at Pacific City, make sure you ask for manager Thomas. He's our friend.
Yep, he is our friend. Yeah, so we did that, and we came back, and you got your hair done. It's looking very nice. I got my hair done.
Thank you. If you are watching on the YouTube, this is my, twice, maybe 3 times a year, I might pay attention to my hair and the way it looks. And when I take a minute to examine it, I realize I need to take better care of it. So my good friend, Brittany Lori Reenan over at Salty Blonde.
Shout out to Brittany.
Big shout. She's a dear friend of mine. One of the best in the business, in my opinion. She's amazing. She's got a cool little salon there in the Costa Mesa off 17th Street area. And she brings my hair back to life. In fact, Eddie decided to come with me to the salon. Let me just see a show of hands, everyone that is running right now, watching the YouTube. How many of you accompany your partner to their salon appointment? Eddie did today.
You know what? I did because I knew where it was. It was located in the hub of about 10 coffee shops. And so that was kind of why.
So really, he dropped me off and was like, see ya. I'm going to go get second coffee.
That is the truth. That was third coffee. But yes, that is 100% true.
So you went and had third coffee. What were you doing at the coffee house? You always say how you like to go and work at the coffee house. And I feel like even if our kids needed to explain to other people what you do for a living, they would have a hard time articulating that. So why don't you just break it down, Ed? What are you actually doing at that coffee house?
Sometimes I have a hard time explaining what I do too. So I can see why other people would be confused. You know what? At the at Pete's. I went to Pete's. At Pete's today, I was prepping actually for this podcast.
Right.
And I'm really excited about today's pod because I get to interview you, Sally McRae. And so I was prepping for that. That's what I was doing.
Should I be afraid?
I'm pretty excited.
I'm a little nervous.
Don't be nervous. This is going to be one of the best pre-race interviews that you've ever had in your 10-year career.
Thank you.
So, yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I'm excited now. The past few days, we have spent a lot of time together. I mean, more than usual. And you and I spend a lot of time together.
Yep.
We decided to head out to Palm Desert. And I needed to get some heat training in, some additional heat training. I've kind of been, sticking heat training in a variety of ways throughout my runs ever since April, but I wanted to get into some extreme heat. If you are familiar here in Southern California with Palm Springs or Palm Desert area, it was anywhere between 100 and 103 Fahrenheit. And we went out there for 3 days. The kids had just finished school. Mackenzie had just graduated. We're like, hey, let's go out as a family. Since the kids were little, and Eddie, since you were a little kid, that is where family vacations were usually had.
Yep.
It's usually on the cheaper side. It's only an hour and a half or so away from home. It's a great, quick little getaway. And so we have kept that tradition for many years. And our kids love going. And I think a big part of it is because they've grown up going.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of places we could probably go to, but they just love hanging out by the pool.
Yep.
And being silly together. But it was really good getting out the heat. But what I realized was how great you were in the heat. And I think it's all that sauna time that you have had. You've been going to the sauna quite a bit. And what I did out in the heat was I would wake up in the morning. You and I would go on a walk. We'd walk for like an hour in like the 90-degree heat. And then I would come back and you go to the pool with the kids and I'd go run for an hour and a half, do some type of workout in the heat. So it was getting kind of double time in the heat there. Now we got home from that and then it was time to celebrate our 22-year wedding anniversary on the 22nd. It was our golden anniversary.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I'm only 25, so it's weird to say that.
That means you've had 22. A great marriage
yes,
to me.
Maybe that's it.
If you still feel like you're 25, baby, all right. Let's go. It has been a fun.
I act like I'm 12, but I feel like I'm 25, but I'm actually almost 45.
This is true.
That's weird.
This is true. But I do love that. And you and I have been spending extra time together. We've been getting in a lot of walks, a lot of steps together. In fact, yesterday, Mackenzie joined us on our walk and breakfast loop. So there's a little loop we like to do where we hit up Corner Market. It's the hidden gem in Huntington Beach. Mostly only locals know about the Corner Market, the Huntington Beach Corner Market. The best breakfast sandwiches. We picked up a fresh loaf of sourdough while we were there. And Mackenzie got in some steps with us as well. And I asked you, Eddie, have you been recording these little hikes that we go on? And I said, this is important for the Strava group. They need to see your boring mini kudo hike.
They do not need that. They do not need that.
But we're getting in like 2 to 3 miles when we walk.
Yeah.
And I love it. To our listeners who just feel like, hey, I get out of bed in the morning, I feel a little stiff. May we suggest a solid morning walk?
Yeah.
It is a great way to wake up the brain, get in some fresh air, if maybe some sunshine, but also loosen the joints.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Now, one of the things that I really love about this is that it can also track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Sally to get 15% off your Lumen. That is LUMEN.me/Sally for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Well, speaking of mini kudo, all right, I have the opposite of mini kudo. I have like a gigantic kudo right here. Like, I don't know. I do know we were talking about it, but I don't know if the listeners have been following along the Olympic trials.
Oh, come on. How can you
Right.
not be a runner and not follow
Okay.
what is going on right now? It's been
It's true.
so exciting.
It has been
Well,
exciting.
this is okay. Before you dive into that story,
All right.
this is where I was leading to.
Oh, here.
So
Okay.
you and I went on this long walk in the morning. We did our breakfast loop. Mackenzie joined us, and then we went home. And I was prepping pretty much the entire day for Western States. I'm over the top prepper, as if I am going to war. I don't know. I mean, every little tiny detail. I have tons of lists and pages and maps and charts and all that good stuff. And so while I was doing that, we then decided, let's go to the gym together.
Ooh, yes,
so
that's right.
we went to the gym together. I did like half hour of mobility, some core, got on the stair mill a little bit. And then we went in the sauna together. But while you were on the bike, I could see you were watching something on your phone. And I was watching the Olympic trials.
Yes.
I have been obsessed with the Olympic trials, from whether it's shot put or the hurdles, the 100-meter sprints, or the second heat, or maybe it was the first heat of the women's 800 with Athing Mo and Kate Grace. Just the craziness of how that ended with Kate Grace flying into the time box at the finish line in order to qualify for the final. I mean, it's been a very, very, I mean, that high school kid, is it Christian Miller? No, not Christian Miller. That's a
Christian something. I know.
Oh, maybe it is Christian. Maybe
I don't know
it is
his last name.
Christian Miller. Anyway, 18 years old. And I mean, can you imagine being 18, being in these heats, keeping up with these guys?
Did you see, I don't know if you've seen this, but Carrie Balega from NAU?
Okay, from NAU, she's a sophomore?
I think she's a freshman this year, but
Mackenzie met her on a recruiting trip because Mackenzie was considering going to Colorado, and then she transferred to NAU, right?
Yeah, so she'll be Mackenzie's teammate.
Mackenzie's teammate.
She's doing tonight the steeplechase.
Oh my gosh!
At the Olympic trials. How cool is that?
So exciting! So exciting!
She's a stud.
I think sometimes we forget that regardless of these people make it to, whether or not they make it to the Olympics, if you're in the trials, you are the best of the best in the nation at what you do, and I just think that is so exciting. I was trying to look up that young. I mean, there's two really good high school kids. So there's Quincy Wilson, who's been doing the 400 meter. Okay. This kid is so fast in high school. And then we have I'm trying to look up the other kid. I want to say his name right, but he's doing the 100 meter. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
on
anyways,
what you were saying.
Back to giving a gigantic kudo. I will tie this in, I promise. But the guy, Eric Holt, he's 29. He is, he's in the Olympic trials for the 1500 and the 800. He was a high school state champ in the 1600, and he always, dreamt of going to the Olympics, being an Olympian, and went off to college. He was at a D1, I think Brighton College, but ran okay. He wasn't like a great runner. Then got a job straight out of college and continued to train because he loved to run and still had a dream of becoming an Olympian. But he worked as a psychiatric. I don't know if he was he just worked at a psychiatric center for children and had some pretty gnarly stories and long days. Emotional. There were 13, 14-hour shifts, so physically and emotionally draining. But then he would go home and he would train. So I read an article that said that he would train at midnight. He would go to a track and train. And anyways, he was looking to, continue the training, and he knew that working that job was tough. And so he got an agent, and he was trying to get like a shoe deal and in order to sponsor him so he can just kind of run full time. But he wasn't able to land a significant shoe deal. So he would just kind of plug away and keep working. He moved in with his parents and just to kind of focus. And anyways, long story short, that this guy,
how old is he?
He's 29.
And he moved back in with his parents.
Yeah, he was living with his sister for a while, just to kind of save money, and moved in with his parents because he's kind of fighting, this balance of having to work but also having this dream. And so anyways, this coach of Empire Elite out on the East Coast, he noticed his runs on Strava. So he noticed him running at midnight and how fast he was. And so he reached out. Long story short, he became part of this team. And so my whole point to this story, how epic this story is, that if you're out there on Strava, hey, there is hope. There is hope for you to become a potential Olympian. I mean, this guy, I don't think he made it in the 1500 since. And I don't know how he did in the 8 as of, maybe was it yesterday they did the 8 for the men? I don't know.
Did the women.
So maybe the men are today. Anyways, I know he's out for the 15, but I think he might still be in it for the 800. But anyways, long story short is the man was recognized on Strava. So I see you out there with the kudos, and that guy gets a massive Strava kudo for that one. No mini kudo there.
It's an ultra dreamer kudo. That is.
Isn't that cool?
I love stories like that.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
It was really fun to see him on the start line. Mm-hmm. Just to be there is a dream come true.
Yeah.
To be an Olympic trials qualifier. I mean, we see this every year in the road marathon. I love how much respect every person gets on that start line, just, to celebrate them, whether you make it in the top 3, top 10 or not. It's what an honor to be recognized as the best in the nation at what you do.
Totally. And
there's been some really cool stories that have already come out of the Olympic trials. I love watching because they inspire me, regardless of the age or how long they've been doing their sport or what event they compete in. I love it when they are interviewed. I love, some of them, they're doing the backstories, they're interviewing their parents, you're watching them on the start line. It's just so inspiring because at the end of the day, they all did the same thing to get there.
Yeah.
They dreamed a dream and they put steps in place and they worked and didn't give up. Mm-hmm. And I think, that doesn't take a special talent to do that. I know not all of us are going to be Olympic athletes, but just applying that formula to everything we do, to everything in life, is going to create our best selves and set us up for the best opportunities and the best outcomes. Mm-hmm. So, everyone's always trying to get in the heads of Olympic champions, world champions. What is it that makes you tick? What is it that you do that has brought you success? And so much of it is rooted in the same thing. I mean, they're believing, they're never giving up, and they're showing up to work no matter if they are injured, if they're at a low point, if they've lost over and over again, if they've lost sponsors. They just keep believing. And so I think that's something we can all apply. You don't just have to be a pro athlete or a champion in order to do that. You can operate that in every area of your life.
Yep.
And I was right on the name. It is Christian Miller.
Yeah.
And he ran a 9.98 to place 5th in the final results of the men's 100 meter. I mean, that's incredible
for a high school kid.
Well, especially the 100 meter sprint. That was my event when I was in high school. I did the 100, the 200, and then I did the relays, like 4x100. And but I think that the 100, it's just an explosive power, strength, plyometric. I mean, so this is an 18-year-old kid. I guess you're an adult when you're 18, but honestly, I look at Mackenzie. I'm like, you're not an adult yet.
Yeah.
But man, he's racing against men that have been in the sport for a while, and he has a bright future ahead. Yep. I don't know if he is still going to go for the relay or if we're going to see him as an alternate or what, but again, just it's been really exciting. I'm really excited about the Olympics this year. It's just it's an exciting time in sport. I know we talked about this in our last podcast. People are getting faster. So many records are being broken. We're seeing people do it at younger ages, but we're also seeing people in the later stages of their life doing amazing things. And so, yeah, it's just a really exciting time in sport.
Yep. All right. So this week is race week, Sal.
It is.
So I think we should give away some stuff.
Okay, I like that. Let's give stuff away for race week.
We are going to do a limited giveaway, but we're going to give away 5 BPN mango gel boxes. Sal, tell us what these boxes are all about. What's in them? Why? What are they? Fill us in.
These are the mango gel premium boxes. So you're not
boxes.
You're not just getting a box of gels.
No, yes. No, not at all. We're going big for you.
The box is big.
The box is big. You're right.
We talked about this in the other podcast, and I said it's almost embarrassing for me.
Yes.
Because I'm like smeared all over this thing. My picture, my name, it's everything Sally. But
it's everything Sally,
BPN was so gracious to say, hey, we have some extra boxes and you can give these away.
Yes.
And at first I was like, oh, let's just give them to like some of our close friends and family. And you were like, no, let's like actually give them away to people.
It's race week. We're going to celebrate by giving away 5 boxes. But tell us what's in these boxes besides your face all over the place. What's in these boxes?
So you're going to get my Choose Strong book.
Mm-hmm.
If you already have that, I encourage you to give it, pass it along. You get my playing card, which is
cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It's in a collector's safe case. There's some stats on there and a little bit about me on there, but there's only 100 of those in existence and it's signed by me.
Yeah, those are cool.
You get a box of the mango gel. Like I said, my favorite way to take in the mango gel is in water. It's the thinner of the 3 gels that BPN has, but you can also shoot it back. It's that liquidy. Like it's not like this messy gooiness. You can shoot this thing really fast. So that's another reason why I like it too. It's very different from other gels. So you're going to get a box of that to test out. And the 4th thing that you get to have is the special edition BPN Go One More yellow hat. So they made this yellow hat. They have a turquoise green and a red one, but they made this yellow hat just for these boxes. And my signature is embroidered into it. So yeah, that's what the box entails. And, it's just a fun gift that BPN said that we could do a little giveaway for. So if you're not into it, you can totally pass it along to somebody else. It's just a fun little gift. So.
Yeah, it's an awesome box with a lot of goodies in there. So we're going to give away 5 of them. So not very many, but we're definitely going to give away 5. So how do you win one of these special mango Sally McRae boxes? Well, you're just going to give us a review on Apple or Spotify. Okay? That's all you got to do. Now, for those of you that have given us a review already, feel free to send us that screenshot as well if you've already done it. But yes, review on Apple or Spotify, and then you can send a screenshot of it to our Instagram, which is the @ChooseStrongPodcast. Or if you don't have Instagram, you can email it to us at choosestrongpodcast@sallymcrae.com. Yep. Simple as that.
I think some people are going to be asking, especially our YouTube audience, should they write a comment in the YouTube channel? Is that considered a review?
That is not considered a review.
Oh.
So we either go Spotify review or Apple review. I'm gonna be harsh today, okay? We got 5 only.
Okay.
That's like limited.
Yeah.
All right. We wish we had 500, but we only got 5. So,
well, regardless of the giveaway, we do appreciate all the reviews.
We do.
Because it helps push out the podcast. It helps get the strong, encouraging message to more people. And again, I just want to say thank you again, because week after week, we are in the top charts on Apple, and that's like pretty amazing.
Yes, very grateful.
And we couldn't do that without those awesome reviews. So thank you.
Yes. And then speaking of awesome people, I'm going to highlight a couple if you don't mind, Sal.
All right. I love it when you do that.
So the first one was pretty cool. It was in the Facebook group, and this was Elizabeth. And can you not eat like that while I'm trying to focus? Elizabeth in the Facebook group said, "Strong love for the trail running community. The recent story in the Choose Strong podcast where Sally befriended a foreigner on the trails inspired me to reach out on the LA trail community to find some fellow AC100 racers of what was going to be a solo training weekend. I was taken aback by the kindness of these 2 amazing humans and their offer to guide me through parts of the course. It was tough and has humbled me, and I know I still need a strong body and mind to get through it. I've been listening to the Choose Strong podcast since the beginning, and Sally and Eddie always inspire me in so many ways, but especially to believe in human kindness and the connections that we make in life and on the trails. Thank you for the inspiration to make new friends in this wonderful community." And she's got a bunch of pictures of her and her new friends on the trail, Mount Wilson Trailhead. Look at that.
My gosh, I love Mount Wilson. Mount Wilson is one of my favorite mountains in the LA area to train on. It's very non-assuming. It's aggressive, steep. You get a lot of climbing in that whole area, all the trails shooting off. Whenever I raced UTMB, I did that for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's where I would train quite a bit in addition to Mount Baldy. But great community too. You're going to see a lot of the SoCal trail runners on Mount Wilson. I will say, you also see some black bears on Mount Wilson. Don't be alarmed. They're typically very shy, but that's where I've seen bears the most is on Mount Wilson, but also lots of friends. So I love this story. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for your boldness. It's amazing when we put ourselves out there, which isn't always easy, to say hello, smile, ask a question. I feel like, for many of us, we love to be seen and known and heard, and we want to make friends and connections. And that definitely takes a bit of courage to put yourself out there and do that. So well done.
Yeah. Thanks, Elizabeth, for sharing that in the group. All right. The next one up is Mr. Adam Wright. He posted this in the Choose Strong Strava group. And again, if you are not in that group, head on over to Strava and look up Choose Strong, because we are there hanging out, encouraging you guys, and giving you kudos for all the wonderful things that you're doing. So Adam Wright says, I think I ran past Eddie doing this around noon at Huntington. Guys with hats and sunglasses tend to be fairly nondescript, so it's annoying I didn't realize fast enough to shout mini kudo. Only realized when I saw the video version of the podcast and saw the same BPN hat. So here it is on the group instead, mini kudo. Mr. Adam got his 14 miles in Huntington Beach, and he ran right past us.
Aw, was his route the beach path?
It
that
was.
We always take?
It was. It was right,
That's
right
awesome.
there. It looks like he even went on the pier. I can see by his Strava, it went all the way down the pier. Adam, bummed we missed you, man, but yeah, props to you, and no mini kudo for that run. That was a good 14 miler. That is a massive kudo for you, my friend.
Yeah, that's solid mileage right there.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite routes. You can run from Bolsa Chica to Newport Beach entirely on the bike and pedestrian path, and it's great. You can just click into a podcast or music and not have to worry about traffic signals and cars. And you do need to look out for some e-bikes, but
E-bikes, yes.
Overall, it's a very enjoyable path. I love seeing people out there. Yesterday when we were out for a walk, we got to see a few people waving, saying hello. So it's good community out there.
Yep. All right. Last one. We have Alexa. She wrote in to the Instagram, and she says, hi, Sally and Eddie. Hola from the Camino de Santiago. Do you know where that? I don't even know where that's at.
Camino
Spain?
de Santiago?
You have to look that up. But she said hola from there. She's like, I finished the last day of my 200K week of running.
Oh, awesome.
I'm so grateful for your work. When at home in Calgary, Canada, I listened and I love your podcast. I've listened, read, and reread your book, and I've used your app so much in my training. Sally, our childhood stories share a lot of similarities. Thank you for always being so generous and courageous in sharing. Recently, my mom, my brother, and I got tattoos together. Aww. My very first one, each slightly different, but all highlighting 3 mountains to signify our strength together. In mine, I included Choose Strong. Your message in these 2 words has really been so powerful for me, as I really think it encompasses the journey that my family's been on. Seeing you dream big, crush your goals, show up for your family, and inspire humans all over the world is so incredible. Thank you for all you do. Wishing you all the very best with Western States 100 coming up. You're going to shine. Alexa, we appreciate you writing in and sharing that. And congrats on 200K week of running. That's no joke. And then, yes, Sally is going to shine at Western States 100. So thanks again for writing in. But Sal, let's talk about Western States 100, because we are currently 4 days, 15 hours, and 32 minutes away from you lining up to that start line.
Well, but before we do
that, I
do have to highlight.
Yep. All right.
And I knew this when she said Camino de Santiago. I was like, wait, I've heard of this before, and I guess my mind was still, because there's so many streets in the Aliso Viejo and Mission
Oh,
Viejo that
yes.
are Camino de.
Mm.
And so I was thinking
Looked
she
it up.
was just, Camino de Santiago is just like a
From a
street name
street?
she was
Yeah.
saying. But no, it's the, I believe the Camino de Santiago it's like a 500-mile, it's in English, the Way of St. James is a network of pilgrims' way or pilgrimages leading to the shrine of the Apostle James in the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Galicia in northwestern Spain.
Spain, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And,
there we go.
But it's a very popular walk,
Nice.
and people will go out there. I mean, it's a major Christian pilgrimage
Okay.
route.
Just another reason to get out to
But
Spain.
it's 500 miles.
That's long.
So when she's saying she completed a 200K
week.
week,
Yeah. So maybe
that's where she is. She's doing this.
Ah, gotcha.
So massive
Wow.
shout out.
Big shout out.
I mean, they say for some people, if they're doing it at average walking speed, can take them a month
Oh, wow.
to do it. And that's just walking each day, probably taking your time and stopping and sleeping in certain places. But
That's cool.
it is known to be a very strenuous journey, and especially depending on the route that you choose. So
Yeah.
you could be walking over 1,000 kilometers, over 1,000 kilometers, which would be over 600 miles.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a very popular route.
That's
that
cool.
is super cool that she took the time in the midst of all of it to give us a shout out. And Eddie, I think this is something that you and I should do one day. It looks
I'm in.
absolutely beautiful.
If you
I was like,
said-
man, I know I've heard of this, but I don't know why. I just, sometimes your brain just goes in one direction.
All the
and
time.
I immediately was thinking of a couple streets in Aliso Viejo and Laguna. And
Yeah.
anyway, I apologize because I kind of interrupted that really good intro that you had about.
It is okay. I'm used to it. I am used to it. In fact, I wait for it because I know it's coming at some point. So it's, yes.
Well, you're right. We're 4 days and 15 hours and 30 minutes from
29
Western
minutes
States.
now, but yes.
Western States 100.
Yep. This episode is brought to you by Janji. Janji makes running apparel for everyday exploration with designs, materials, and features meant to help runners go farther. Each Janji collection is informed by a different part of the world, where they collaborate with local artists on unique designs, and they partner with clean water nonprofits. This is their way of celebrating exploration and supporting the people and the places that inspire them. Also, 2% of all the sales are donated to clean water programs around the world, and as of now, they've donated almost $1 million to clean water solutions around the globe. And I've been wearing the 5-inch AFO Middle Short Ultra, extremely comfortable, and it has a recycled polyester. It's fast drying, smooth with a soft elastic waistband, and they have 6 pockets and a high vis reflective detailing. Janji is available at REI stores as well as janji.com, and if you use code CHOOSESTRONG, you will get 10% off of your order. That's janji.com, code CHOOSESTRONG. All right, so let's chat. Let's chat about the race and the significance of the actual race, the significance maybe of the race to you. Let's dive into some of these questions that I have prepared all day at Pete's Coffee. All right, so the first one I just want to give out because this one, maybe some people maybe listening don't have a clue what Western States is, and maybe share a little bit about what's so special about this race, Western States 100.
Yeah, in very short summary, it is the most prestigious 100-mile race in the nation, known as the oldest 100-mile race. It's also known for being the most competitive 100-mile race in the world. I'd say next to UTMB, Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, which is over in France. So it's a big deal for the trail and ultra community just because it marks so many significant points in the history of our sport.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in Northern California. It starts in Olympic Valley. It's a point-to-point race, and it goes from Olympic Valley and ends on a high school track in Auburn. And just the route alone is known for many different things. So you got the first 30 miles that start off in altitude in true rugged high country. The route is also mainly a downhill course. I mean, there's still like 19,000 feet of climbing in this race, but it's known for a couple very significant traits. So one being 30 miles or 50K up in altitude. Then you have these series of 3 hot, deep canyons. And historically, Western States is a hot race. Last year, we saw all the records fall. It was a cold race last year. I mean, they spent a lot of time in the snow in those first 15, 20 miles. And so depending on the weather, is also the kind of race day that you will see right down to the results. So the race could be an hour and a half faster or slower, depending on the heat. And so when you get into those canyons, that really changes up the race quite a bit, depending on how well people do with heat and climbing in and out of these canyons. And some of these climbs, they're 1.5 miles to 2.5 miles, get out of these canyons. Then you hit the iconic, probably one of the most iconic aid stations in trail running, Forest Hill. And, some people will say this is where the race actually starts. It's mile 62. You have 38 miles of the race left. But even so, if the race still starts here, I think one note that isn't often highlighted is that within those 38 miles left, there's still over 6,000 feet of climbing, but it tends to run pretty quickly. So if you have legs left at this point, that is a very positive thing. But this is then where runners will run down to the iconic American River, and then up to Green Gate, and then it's the final 20-mile stretch all the way to the finish. So in recent years, we have seen the attention, participation, spectation, media grow quite a bit with Western States, and it's a pinnacle race that people look forward to year round. And now with the incredible coverage, Jamil with Our Vipa running, his whole team comes in and they just do a fantastic job of covering the race. Yeah. And when I first started in 2014, it was just I Run Far using Twitter. You remember that's the only way you would be able to watch it. Everyone was refreshing their Twitter and hoping that maybe a picture would go along with the tweet. And then it was like, you could add video to Twitter. And then you get these little 10, 15 second blurry videos from out in the backcountry. But now they're bringing drones. They have guys, really live cameras. These guys will run the first 4 miles of the race all the way up to the escarpment. They're running at altitude. This is one of the steepest, longest parts of the race. You have runners with live feed cameras following them. And the amount of work and organization that goes in to just bring it onto the live feed. You can watch it on YouTube. It's super exciting. They have a live chat room that you can join. So I always encourage people, if you're brand new to ultras, you're not familiar with Western States, or you're just trying to understand the sport as a whole, this is an exciting event to watch. They do a great job. There's commentators for 24 hours straight, actually 30 hours straight. And maybe even longer than that, because they're on for like an hour before and then like an hour after. So I think it's like 32 hours of live coverage, and where people can take part in that chat room, and they're given updates and interviews, and so it's a super exciting time, I'd say, just in the sport of ultra running, because so much is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And, Western States means a lot to a lot of people. I think far outside of even racing it, you'll talk to volunteers who have been volunteering for a decade at Western States, and they just love being a part of the weekend. They love to witness the racers. It doesn't matter whether it's front or back of the pack. There's some incredible stories that have come out of this race. Some of the best films in ultra running have come out of Western States. The legends, all-time legends, have come out of Western States. And yeah, there's just a lot of rich history and appreciation. And it's a lot harder to get in. I will say that. It's I hear some people waiting 6, 7, 8 years to get into Western States now, because the lottery is, it's thick, and I think they only accept like 400 athletes, or just under that.
Mm-hmm.
I think usually on race day, there's about 380, 390 athletes that are standing on the start line.
Well, now you've done the race 3 times, 2014, 2015, and 2016. And now it's 2024. So what makes this year so special to you as you're going back 10 years after your first time?
A couple things make it special. The first and foremost, that you and Mackenzie will be there the entire time crewing. Mackenzie, depending on her knee, will be hopping in at little sections like Bath Road, maybe Pointed Rocks, to pace me to the finish. Having you guys there is really special on a personal level, just because Western States 100, it was 6 months into my professional career.
Mm-hmm.
So in January 2014, I got signed by Nike. A few weeks later, I ran a golden ticket race, and I remember distinctly feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. It was the first time I'd ever felt so much pressure as an athlete. I came into the sport with a pure love for the sport, really loving being in the mountains. I loved long days training with friends and setting goals for myself that weren't marked by expectation of anyone else. And I think that, I had to learn a lot once I signed as a pro athlete. There were so many things I had to navigate. And it's like, you don't go to school to learn how to operate as a professional athlete. Like, no one really tells you all of the details that go into it. In my mind, I just thought, oh, cool. Like, I'm going to get a paycheck and free gear, and like, I'm going to be supported and everything. My life is going to change. And, it took me 2 or 3 years to really understand what it means to be a professional athlete and navigating all the different sides of that. And so I felt, for the first time, I remember I actually cried. I don't think this had ever happened to me, but before I went to the start line of the golden ticket race, I cried. I think I was so overwhelmed by anxiety and feeling like, and I've shared this story before, but when I was first signed, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. And I knew that a big company like Nike, who is a little bit more glamorous and flashy, I knew that would bring a lot of unwanted attention. And I wasn't looking for attention. I wanted to fulfill a dream that I'd had since I was a kid. I wanted to make being an athlete my career. I wanted to go after big goals and be supported. But, with every athlete across every sport, you have to expect that everyone is going to weigh in on everything you do from that point on. So you think of like basketball players, football players, baseball players. I mean, I listen to you and Isaiah talk all the time about athletes, and you have some very strong opinions about certain athletes, and and you guys know what their contracts are, and did you hear this guy got signed, or this guy's in the fourth in the 4th round of the draft, and you guys know so many stats and statistics. You also know some things about some of these athletes' personal lives, and I wasn't prepared for any of that, and it was, I was only a few weeks into my professional career with Nike, and it's hard when people don't, when immediately you get signed and people are like, well, why is she signed?
Mm-hmm.
And she shouldn't be signed, and she doesn't even look like a runner. She's really big. What has she done? And I remember feeling first like, man, like I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for that. And even some friends kind of giving me some tough love and saying, well, you expect more of it. And that's part of it, Sally. And so I had to put my big girl pants on and walk out to that start line. And I had a war in my mind of, man, you're doing what you love. Just like focus on that. Focus on like the joy and the love you have for the sport, and not so much the result or the expectation. And that was, it was a little battle I had. And so getting my golden ticket, when I came in second place, I crossed that finish line, and it really was a dream come true in every way. I was going to Western States.
Yeah.
At the time I felt like, wow, I proved myself, like I deserved to be here. Western States was only my second 100, and I had dreams and hopes of like, I wanted to be good at running hundreds. I really loved that distance after, not the first one I did was Andrews Crest 100, but I did it on a fractured leg. I didn't realize it was fractured till about halfway into that race. So I'd never had like a good 100-mile race. So kind of the same thing, feeling a little nervous going into Western States. But, I remember coming to Forest Hill, I was in 17th place. And I had clipped a rock. I had like tripped on my way down to Devil's Thumb, and kind of did like a little twist hyperextension of my knee. And, adrenaline was going. I was going downhill. I kept running on it, and then like 30 feet later, had this searing pain, and I realized I did something not good to my knee. It swelled up a little bit. I got into Forest Hill. I was in 17th place. My good friends over at Trail Runner Nation, Don Freeman and Scott Warr, came to the aid station, and Don is a sports chiropractic, and he did like this really funny little tape job on it. I mean, you look at it, it's like barely any tape, but he did like this diamond over my kneecap and kind of taped around the front. And I think it wasn't really like the tape job that set me off, but it was more of the mindset. It was, David Daly settled in next to me, and same with Colin, and they both were just like, we know it hurts, but you trained so hard and we believe in you. And I didn't at that time. I got in and I was like, well, this just kind of like the typical, this just isn't my day. Things aren't going the way I planned. I'm so far back. Coming back from 17th place, like at Forest Hill, is going to be like so painful for me to try and claw my way back up there. But, just as I have learned little by little over the years, that's exactly what I did. It was, I passed one person, another person. I think I passed over 30 people between mile 62 and mile 80. And got myself into 9th place woman. Little story is I got passed by the 9th place woman, by the 10th place woman 1 mile before the track. And so I came in 10th place that first year. But I'll tell you what, between getting signed in January 2014 and getting top 10 at Western States in 2014, it changed my my mindset. It changed my life. Even today, for any athlete that's looking to, that wants to be competitive, that either wants to race in with the elite field, or is really looking to run professionally. And when I say professionally, I just, in the very, the very direct way, is just you're able to make a living off of it. You can pay your bills. You can live off being an athlete. The golden ticket races, the big races, you got to get yourself in there. If you get top 10 in Western States, you kind of solidify yourself into the community as either an athlete to watch, an athlete that, if you're not signed yet, you'll probably get signed really quick, or at least get some support. And I know for me, after 2014 and beyond, I mean, I started getting invited to races all over the world. and got invited to go on podcasts and do magazine articles. I mean, it was all these things that it was brand new to me.
Yeah.
And that was the year I started just to learn and to navigate that whole world. But I'll tell you what, the friends and family I had by my side in those first 6-8 months, it changed my life, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the way that Colin and Dave and Ethan and Billy and Josh Spector, the way that they encouraged me. Those couple years leading up into getting signed with Nike, but then also just at Sean O'Brien, getting my golden ticket, and then Western States. It's very precious. And I have to note here too, my kids, our kids, Ed, were only 6 and 8 years old. So, Isaiah was in 1st grade, Mackenzie was in 3rd grade. And, it was a whole new world for all of us. But, our kids have remembered me and grown up just watching me pretty much almost their whole lives, for as far back as their memory can, can recall, with me training and running on the trails. So I think that's why it's so precious to me. It is been a decade long of chasing a dream and going after things that I love. Just as I said, when I stood at the start line of Sean O'Brien, I had to remind myself, like, this is what you love. And I've told myself that throughout my career, when I've had to make hard decisions, when I've chosen certain races or to do certain projects or to not do what other people expect of me. It's because I don't take for granted the opportunity. And, I don't find my value or my identity in being a runner. I don't find my value in my identity in being a professional athlete. It is a beautiful gift. It's a part of my life, and an opportunity to do what I love. But I've always seen it as just a pathway to do something greater. And so I feel very blessed that my career has been this long. I don't think there's a lot of women who have run professionally for 10 years straight. I've men or women who have run for the same company in this sport for a decade straight. So I'm really proud of that. And I feel like I've been able to do almost everything I've wanted to do in this sport. And gosh, I'm getting a little emotional right now because it's just been a dream come true. And just to know that I've had so many people believe in me and support me every step of the way, because it hasn't always been easy. I think sometimes we can look at professional athletes and we just see, like, when they're at a race, when they're gearing up, when they're laying out their gear, that beautiful picture at the summit of a mountain when the sun's setting, and they're like, oh man, their training looks amazing. But there's been a lot of lows in all of this, and it's constantly asking, myself and my body to do something that's difficult. I'd say, especially in these last few years as I've gotten older, like it's, and our kids have gotten older, and I've added more things to my creative list that I've loved to do. It's a choice to do what is hard all the time. And I don't take that lightly, and I'm just very, very, very grateful for this journey. So going back to Western States, now that Mackenzie's 18, Isaiah's 16, and just seeing you as my husband, who has supported me every single step of the way, I'm going to be taking it in a little bit differently than most people there. Yeah. I just hold a lot of weight, like, in my heart. There's things that are very nostalgic to me. I'm going to arrive in the valley. I'm one that's going to be able to walk in, and I do this every year that I'm there. I'm just like, I can't believe how much it's changed. And I don't say that like in a sad way. I'm just like, wow, it's amazing how much our sport has changed. I love seeing how much more support there is for athletes. I mean, when I first started in this sport, there was only a handful of us that could actually like make a living as a professional ultra and trail runner. We're now seeing college athletes come straight into our sport.
No.
And be able to be signed and have that a career. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that makes me excited for Mackenzie, who
Mm-hmm.
wants to be a professional athlete. I'm like, hey, remember, like, trail and ultra is now an option.
Yeah.
Before that wasn't. Before is if you're going to make an athlete as a career as a runner, you need to be on the road or on the track.
Yeah.
Like that's the only bona fide way to have, you know, an honest income. But now there's lots of athletes who are able to do this and make a living. And one telltale way is look at all of the athletes who have been living on the Western States course or in Flagstaff for the past 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's all they're doing is training. All they're doing is training, recovering, eating, taking care of their bodies. And they are 100% focused on Western States.
Yeah.
And I should probably point that out too, because, you know, when we did our launch of the mango gel, Nick Bear, who's going to be my pacer, I know we're going to talk about this later, but you know, the way he announced me to the crowd and as we were chatting is just like, yeah, Sally's going to go and win. And like, I've always said, it's important that we act like champions. Don't wait to be the champion to act like one. And that is how I've been in training. Mm-hmm. Is I train with the mindset of I'm going to win. I also train with great respect and great respect for all of my competitors who this year you look at the field and there's a minimum, at the very minimum, 10 women that can win outright, mm-hmm. just straight up champion. That is not even counting all the women who will get on the podium, be in the top 10. The field is so deep and competitive. I have a lot of respect for these women, unlike me, who have lived on the course for the last 2 months, who have done nothing but train. Mm-hmm. That hasn't been my life, you know, these past 6-7 months in the lead up to Western States. I'm very proud of my training in addition to being a mom and running a business and going after these other things that I love. And so, you know, when I arrive in Olympic Valley, my goal is all in 100%. Let's suffer and get uncomfortable and see what we can do out there. But my great hope is that for all the years that I've been there, 2014, 15, and 16, racing, that I will have the absolute best performance, the best day that I've ever had. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm 10 years older from the time that I first did it, mm-hmm. I still believe that I can have a great performance, even the best performance that I've ever had.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So speaking of the training and thinking back to your last year, so last year you ran the Grand Slam of 200s, and that was your first kind of go at the 200 distance, 200 plus. And speak a little bit about how racing those distances last year is going to help you run a 100-miler this mm-hmm. week.
It's weird that I'm going to say this out loud. I've said it in a couple other podcasts that I've been interviewed in, but racing 200s has changed my mindset. I had like a mindset shift. Actually, I should say it changed my perception. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, when I think of Western States 100, there have been a few times in training where I've said, oh, it's just 100 miles. Yeah. And that sounds wild to say that, but I am being genuine, because in the span of 5 months, I raced 200-mile races 4 times. And each race I had a goal when I hit the point where I was 100 miles from the finish. Uh-huh. That's how I broke up all of those 200s. And regardless of how much pain or discomfort that I was in, which was normal for all 4 races, unfortunately. But I remember when Billy picked me up at mile 140 of Moab 240. Yeah. And my plan before I got to the race, I knew when we get to mile 140, I'm racing. Yeah. And Moab had always been the race on the Grand Slam that I wanted to win. My hope was that I would learn something every single race that would point me to being the champion of that race. Like that was my secret athletic goal. I didn't share that, of course, especially because I was in such bad shape physically that I needed to protect that, but still be serious about that. And I remember coming into mile 140. I didn't feel amazing, but I did tell myself it doesn't matter how I would be feeling. You have to click your brain into what you plan to do and go after it with all your heart. And I believe that first place was over an hour ahead of us, maybe almost 2 hours ahead of us when we came in there. And I told Billy, all right, we have a 27-mile stretch that was all on dirt road. It was like this undulating dirt road. So we were out of the mountains and the canyons at that point. And I chose him specifically for that section. He's like a brother. I knew we would just like talk. I knew I'd be able to settle into a rhythm, and Billy's a great runner. And so I knew that we would just click off the miles if we got into a good rhythm. And we did. We arrived over an hour into the next aid station, so we didn't see you. Or the next cruise station. Yeah. So it was 27 miles till the next cruise station. And the first place female was sitting in that aid station. And I pretty much walked in and I was like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I looked back at you guys. I was like, we're headed out. I'm in first place and I'm never giving that up. Yep. And we just stuck to that. And so what that taught me doing that over and over and over again, the same thing happened at Tahoe. I was so sick at Tahoe. That wrecked me for a solid like 5 months, what I did at Tahoe. But for me, I think it was worth it. I did exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get on the podium. Yeah. And it had to be a mindset shift. So I hit a certain point where I knew I was going to start racing. And I think this is even in the Tahoe film where Billy is like, dude, you're going to burn all your matches. Like, you need to be careful. And I was like, don't worry about me. I know what I'm doing. And I remember being a little bit hesitant when Drew had showed us the edit, because I'm like, that's a side of me that I would say most people don't see. Yeah. And I think that for any athlete that is, that is hard pressed on racing, on getting in on the podium, like cameras don't see a lot of that. We don't show a lot of that. And I think it's okay to expose that. When you have a goal and you train so hard, only you can feel your body in this great discomfort that you're going through, but also, in your mind, like the thousands of hours and thousands of miles that you put in, day out, and how much that hurt and the sacrifice you gave. And so often things come down to a single decision in a race. You're either going to like pull up your pants and race, or you're going to sit and complain and say, it doesn't feel good. This hurts too much. Or let's just like jog it in. Like, it's not my day. It's not going the way I want it to. I don't think I can endure anymore. And I think that doing that over and over again in these races, it showed me what I'm able to endure when I don't have anything left. I don't think about the Grand Slam as being like a string of amazing performances. I don't look back on any of those performances like, yeah, I nailed it. Yeah. And so because of that, oddly, in a reverse psychology type way, it's also brought me a lot of confidence, because I look back and I realize that for all of us, whether you're at the front of a race or back of the race, we all go through discomfort. And when I think about how uncomfortable I was in the Grand Slam, I think, but you got to the finish line of every single one, Sally. Yeah. And so when I envision Western States, I know that is going to be something that comes up in my mind over and over again, is how much can you endure and how much are you willing to push? And in my mind, it's like, well, this is only 100 miles. It's not 250. It's not 240. And so the race will actually probably feel like it's going fast. And I felt like that even in the last couple of years, because I've done so many hundreds. and I settle into a very focused energy where I'll roll into 40. I'm like, dude, I can't believe we're already 40 miles into this thing. I can't believe we're already 60 miles in. Oh my gosh, But I don't think that's unique to me. I don't think that's any like special power or talent I have. I really believe that when you train yourself to do something over and over and over again, you start to adapt to it. Your body starts to adapt. It gives you back the strength that you need. It gives you what you need in order to complete that task that once felt impossible. And pretty soon it doesn't feel impossible anymore. Pretty soon you can now start thinking about how you can get better at it. So when I first ran hundreds, it was this overwhelming distance. I couldn't wrap my mind. I can't even still wrap my mind around when I drive 100 miles. And that's a joke that people say often, but like 100 miles is far. But even now, it's not wrapping my mind around 100 miles because I focus so much on different things. But once you've done it so many times, it genuinely makes you wonder, wait, what are humans capable of?
Yeah.
Because every start line I get to, whether it's 100 or I think back of the 200s, I looked around at some people that are standing with me in those 200s and look around at people that are finishing, and I'm blown away. Because according to society, we're supposed to all look a certain way to be endurance athletes or be a certain age or you're past your prime. But wow, we're seeing people 50s, 60s, 70s that are lining up and completing these things. And so I think there's a lot more that goes on to endurance sports than just like being fit and fast. Fitness is a part of it, but there's so many variables that go into these, and the more you do it, it gives you confidence.
Yeah.
So I think Western States is a hard race, in my opinion. I think it's actually, if I'm looking back historically, was always one of, I think my body was in the most pain after Western States. Like I said, you go through so many variables. It's not a race that's just focused on one factor. So it's like, this isn't 100 miles flat around the track. This isn't 100 miles at only altitude, or 100 miles that has just a ton of climbing. It's everything. There's a lot of climbing. There's aggressive heat. There's steep canyons. There's very fast sections. There's a lot of downhill, and the competition is very thick. And so every year I remember being in need of a lot more recovery, I felt like, than other races, but physically being absolutely decimated. So I'm saying this with massive respect, knowing that it's going to be a painful race no matter what.
Yep.
I don't think that spectators will ever see me don't expect to see me in the live feed. Don't expect to hear commentators talking about me. Like I said, I'm there. There's almost all the top 10 women are coming back, minus 3 of them, I believe. And then there's a whole host of golden ticket runners as well. And so, I have utmost respect for how incredible these women are, how fast they are, how talented they are, and that they've been able to be 100% all in, doing nothing else except training for the race, like on the course. So, I think that the 200s will give me a lot of confidence. As I stand on the start, like, all right, we have 100. And when I hit a low point, I'll remember the 200s. Yeah. And I'll be like, dude, I've been with nothing for 24 hours straight and still able to run. Yeah. I've run with holes in my feet and, disgusting sores in between my toes and heels and still been able to run. So I think those are the things I'm excited about as far as like how I'm going to grow as an athlete. I think every time we race, we get an opportunity to grow. And that's really what I want. I want to have the best performance. I don't know what that time is going to look like, but like performance as far as how I handle the setbacks, how I handle the low points, how I interact with my crew, how I interact with my pacers, and the different things that I think about. I'm hoping for just a stronger Sally out there. And, whether that has me finishing in 38th place or first place, or somewhere in between, I want to know that when I cross that finish line that I gave 110% of myself.
Yep.
And I'll definitely have the 200s to thank. I think that running 200s is very valuable. Just what you learn and what you're able to handle.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I had told you in Moab, for example, some of those aid stations were 20 miles apart. Western States has 20 aid stations.
Yeah.
That's insane. Some of them are only like 3 miles apart. Like I that's wild to me after what I went through last year, where they're on average between 12 and 18 miles apart, up to 20 miles apart. You just have to learn to deal with no aid.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out in terms of confidence for you. That's going to be something to definitely lean upon when you're in those tough moments, huh? All right, so this one's kind of more open-ended, but what's one thing that you're curious about in terms of how the race will play out for you? So I was kind of thinking a strategy that you have, or different nutrition you might be using, or gear, or what, I don't know, anything. Yeah. Like what's something that you're kind of curious how it's going to play out?
I think this was always a curiosity the 3 years that I raced it, but just how I'm going to feel at Robinson Flat.
What mile is that?
That's mile 30.3.
Okay.
Every year I was always curious about that. And I think one of the reasons is that's kind of like where the high country starts to end. Altitude, you've done a massive climb the first 4 miles. It's a little bit more rugged up there, technical. And I'll just be curious about, how I'm feeling. I'm hoping that I feel strong, that I feel good, that I'll come in and a relatively like good placement. That's like my first curiosity. The second one, I'm really excited to run with Nick Bear. This is the first time that he will be out to Western States, him and the whole crew. It's the first time that Nick and I have been able to like run together, and I'm really excited to show him this section. The section he's running with me is one of my favorite sections on the course. Historically, it's where I've been able to make the most movement in the race, and so I'm really like curious just to see how that goes, like both of us, because Nick's a strong runner. He's incredibly fast. He's mentally very tough. And we kind of operate in the same way in a lot of ways. I just wonder what that'll be like both of us running together.
Yeah.
Are we going to be chatty, or are we just going to be like die hard focus, like pushing? I'm really excited about that. And then the third thing I guess that I'm most curious about is just, my interactions with you and Mackenzie every time I see you guys, because I am super bummed that Isaiah isn't going to be there. He's at summer camp. But, historically, I remember especially 2015, you guys just randomly showed up to Michigan Bluff aid station, which was like mile 54.8 or something like that. And Ann Trayson was my coach at the time, and she was not happy that you guys were there, because I'm really emotional with my family. And that's partly why it was always good when the kids were younger that they weren't there, because I just go into mom mode. Do you have your sunscreen on? Are you guys hot? Have you gotten something to eat? And, and I just, my love for my children, I just get all mushy. So Mackenzie is probably the most competitive of the three of us. So I think I'm just like curious to see how she's going to be. Like, she's going to get a front row seat for the first time for miles 1 to 100. And in the past, she's always kind of dropped in towards the finish of the races and hasn't really like seen me race from start to finish. So I'm really anticipating just that experience with her. And just seeing it through her eyes, I think, because she's a track runner, she and she'll do cross country too, but it's only like 3 miles. So
All right, so knowing what you know about this race, having raced it 3 times, and obviously you've been up there so many times, whether it's crewing, pacing, commentating, whatever, you've spent a lot of time up there every year. But specifically, how have you trained differently this time for the race than you have in the past 3 times?
I'd say, the last 3 times that I trained for it, the kids were in elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
and which is really cool because I dropped them off at school, and then I'd go to the mountain, and I'd run 3, 4, 5 hours, come home, we'd do homework, make dinner, kind of thing. So my schedule was like very on point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of structure in it those first few years. This last year, with the kids in high school, schedules are just different with high school. Mackenzie's getting it home at noon sometimes. Like sometimes she's only in school for 3.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
She's racing 2 to 3 times a week. And then same with Isaiah. You had lacrosse and work, and his school schedule is a little different. So I did find myself this season pivoting quite a bit with my training and sometimes having to modify on the fly. I trained way more on the treadmill than I have ever in maybe my entire career. I'd say that when the kids were babies, I trained like primarily on the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to that, at first I was a little bummed about it. I'm like, there's no way. But then I had this like renewed gratitude for it because it allowed me to be all in
Mm-hmm.
on everything that the kids were doing. And I've said this before, our kids are making decisions that are for their adult years that really matter to them, that are big decisions that affect them on a greater scale than when they were like in 1st and 3rd grade and they're playing in the sandbox and drawing chalk with their friends and getting in fights with, about, sharing toys. And, my
Mm-hmm.
friend called me a dummy, just
Yeah.
like life was just so much simpler. and I felt like we had just like this, so much support as far as like if they needed to get to soccer practice for their little recreational game, like it was just, everything was just lighter. But now, I spent a lot of my training, like I was going on recruiting trips with Mackenzie. I mean, I remember when we were on a recruiting trip up in Oregon, and my training was on the treadmill in the hotel gym. And, these are things that are just not ideal. I would say, especially this day and age, if you're a professional athlete, like you have to be so rigid, all in, like focus. But these are things I choose and that I'm proud of and that I really love. And I think that's also been a big message in this podcast and any content I put out, that our lives don't have to look like everybody else's. My life absolutely does not look like, I'd say, all my competitors' lives.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I can't do the sport too. That doesn't mean that I can't compete. I just have to find a different pathway in order to make it work. And so, I had a lot of breaking up workouts into 2 again, in order to get miles in, a lot of training on the treadmill. And just to kind of put a tag on that, training on the treadmill was because my days were scheduled down to the minute. And so sometimes it was like, can I put in, like, if I don't have to drive an hour round trip somewhere to get to a trail or get to a certain hill, how can I use that hour? And so a lot of things came down to the hour. So if I was training on the treadmill in my garage, it was like, bam, I just put on my shoes, walk downstairs, get the workout done, hop in the shower, bam, I'm like in the meeting or at the event, like right away. So, it forced me to be very, very disciplined. I think the other thing that I did to balance all that out was I did 4 training camps on the course. And so I would do Tuesday to Thursday, where I knew there was going to be the least amount of people on the course and on the trails. It was going to be the quietest. I snuck up to the course. I didn't tell people that I was up there, except when the first camp I went up there with Billy and my coach, Jason Koop. We got a little bit of coverage. I got to run with Jason. All of that was super valuable to me. But those were the times where I was able to completely disconnect from work and just my normal schedule, and just focus 100% on race day strategy, race day gear, getting in really hard, solid training 3 days in a row. This is what I did in my lead up to Badwater. I was down on the course for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Half the time at home, half the time on the course. And it was very valuable to me. So very grateful that I was able to do that. But overall, just a different way of training. And I think that I'm definitely living out what I preach in that with every season, it comes a different way of life for me. But I embrace each season, and I've learned to be flexible and to bend and just do my best with what I have in that time.
Yeah. Yep. All right. The next one, you mentioned Ann Trayson was your coach back in the day where you were racing in 8-9 years ago. And then the past few years haven't had a coach. And then you just mentioned Jason Koop. So you hired Jason Koop as your coach to get you ready for Western States this year. So what's that been like? What's it been like having a coach again? Checking in each week with your training progress and stuff. Talk us through how that's been.
Yeah. So I've had 3 coaches. I had Ann Trayson was my first coach. Mario Fraioli was my second coach. And I think I stopped working with him like in 2020.
Is that when you hired me, or is that after?
Let's see.
I can't remember the dates. Yeah, it's getting a little fuzzy.
And then Jason Koop is my third coach.
Yeah.
Each coach has held a tremendous significance in my training and my pathway as an athlete, and very grateful for all 3 of those relationships, and just how I've grown. Jason is someone that I have a lot of respect for because he himself is an athlete and has done some of the toughest races in the world, but also coaches some of the best athletes in the world, domestically and internationally. And he's very straightforward. And I like his style of coaching because I tend to do better with that. Someone that's just going to shoot straight with you and be very direct. And, I don't like to be coddled. If I'm not performing well, or if, I can do a little bit better, or if I'm really hard on myself, I really appreciate when Jason just shoots straight with me. And he doesn't even need to say a lot. Like if I'm having a bad day and he's like, well, you showed up and you did the work, like training isn't perfect. And sometimes that's all I need. I just need those reminders. The second thing that has been really valuable is Jason just took my training and changed it. And I knew that's what I needed because I know that the way I typically train, especially these last few years on my own, is very unconventional. And it's super easy for me because I have high energy too. Like I could train all day. And Jason was really good about really just centering where the intensity should go and shortening some things up so that I could be more intense in certain training sessions, and just trying and experimenting with different types of workouts. And so that's been really valuable. I feel fit. I feel like I'm ready to race.
Yeah.
And, mentally, physically, he's been, he's contributed a lot of that in the training to that growth. Like I feel like I've grown mentally and physically as an athlete this year. And it's just been nice to have someone that I could bounce back things, whether I'm talking about nutrition, or just hard days. I had a couple, there was probably like 2 times in this whole training cycle where I was like pretty frustrated. And, it's just when I can't nail like certain workouts, or if like I have to like modify so much in a week, like I get really, that was like frustrating for me. So it was good to have Jason just to walk through with that. Like, hey, let's remember the markers. Let's like remember how much you've grown and increased. Your fitness is great. You're okay. Like no one's ever going to nail a training program like perfectly. Like these are all guides. These are like, we have to move through a real life. And he's very aware of my life and all the things that I do and my kids. And so, that kept me grounded, and it kept me hopeful too, because it would be easy just to beat myself up. And he was just good at reminding me otherwise. So
Nice. Are you looking forward to a certain section of the race to run? I know, like you mentioned, like getting to that 30-mile, like it's going to be, a good test, or you're curious about how you feel. But is there a section, because you've ran it a couple times now, that you're like, oh, I love this section?
I really love Forest Hill to the river.
So what mile is that?
So that's mile 62 to 78.
Okay.
And it's, a solid 16-mile run. And I ran that I've probably run that like 4 or 5 times in training already. I've also run like the last 10 miles of the race. Oh my gosh, probably 15 times in training. So I'm really excited about those 2 sections.
Why do you like Forest Hill to the river?
I have so many good memories running there. It's beautiful. It plays to what I consider my strengths. It's a great point in the race. Like I think mile 62, like everyone hopes that if they can get to Forest Hill, mile 60, and they're feeling good, man, that's the best thing. It's hard to get to mile 62 and to not feel good, just because the field it changes so much there. And if there's enough people that feel amazing and you come in not feeling amazing, it's easy to kind of get left behind, I guess. And that really just goes to those that are, as far as like racing goes, like when I personally think about that, that's kind of like, that was always like a good gauge for me. And in 2015, when I got 7th place, I remember coming into Forest Hill and just feeling amazing. And I have pictures of Mackenzie and Isaiah both kissing me in the aid station and running next to me as I ran out of that aid station. And it just like makes me smile so much, because I have this huge smile. I'm running next to Dave Daly, who's my pacer. And I just remember how hard we ran that section. And so I'm excited to run that again. I want to have that, that same feeling coming in there. I think Forest Hill too, like, Forest Hill down to Cal Street. So there's Cal Street 1, 2, and 3. As you get down to the Rucky Chucky River, there's all these, aid stations on the way. It's just, I don't know. There's just something about the race that turns there for everyone. But even if you're running back of the pack, it's being able to go 62 miles into 100 is a big deal, because you're more than halfway done. Yeah. And so in your mind, you can kind of tell yourself, okay, I have a 50K left. I can do a 50K. Like, I can do this. Most of the hardest part of the race is over. You're done with the heat in the canyons. The biggest, steepest climbs are done. Yeah. So there is a celebration that happens there. So for everyone, and that's generally speaking, like for everyone, it's just like so exciting getting there. But on a very personal level, it's just like my favorite section. I think it's so fast. And I had the great privilege of running with Lin Chen. We're going to do a YouTube on this, so I won't tell like the entire story, but she's from China and was out there training. We ran into each other and then ended up training several times together during my Western States camps. You'll see her in the top. I mean, I think she's a contender to win it. Very, very strong runner, so talented, but very lovely too. And I got to meet her coach, and her coach would like crew us and drop nutrition and fluid to us throughout. But she and I did that section in training, and I think just in our training, I ran it the fastest I'd ever run it was with her. Like, so she's awesome. Well, she's amazing. That's a testament to her. And she ran it with a smile, just bouncing along the entire time. It was very easy for her. So I was really grateful to have that experience with her. It gave me confidence for race day. And I think that's always the value of when you get an opportunity to run with somebody, especially when they're a much better athlete. I mean, she's a far better athlete than I am, very, very fast. And I kept thanking her for that. Like, thank you so much for letting me run with you. But yeah, so I'm excited to get, to Forest Hill. Awesome.
All right. So I know you mentioned Nick pacing you and Mackenzie and some others, but how did you decide your pacers this year and your crew for Western States 2024?
I wanted to, I think the biggest thing, and I didn't even think about pacers. All I wanted was for you and Mackenzie and Isaiah to be there. And I thought, the three of you would be an incredible crew. And then once we saw the Hume Lake summer camp was the exact same weekend, I was like, oh my gosh, we can't ask Isaiah. So then I was like, okay, I have two people crewing me, just Isaiah, Eddie and Mackenzie. And that was, in the beginning, that's all that I had.
Yeah.
I didn't really focus on anybody else. I would have loved to have Colin and Dave back out there with us again. I mean, they were there every single year. Yeah, the OGs every year that I raced it. But I think the reason why I didn't ask them was I did want a new experience with you and Mackenzie. I really wanted it to be just a special event for us, for our family. And I wasn't even planning on going back to Western States. Like, it was such a surprise and such a gift that I got to go. And so that was just the focus. Yeah. As the months rolled on, I thought, I know Nick does some super cool things in the ultra endurance world, puts out amazing content, has brought like a great light, to the sport. Nick's a good friend and great partner. His company BPN is one of my sponsors, but just as a person, like, really love Nick. And he just defies so many characteristics of an endurance athlete. And I love it. I mean, he's incredibly fast on the road, and it's just been so amazing to see the things that he does. And so I was like, dude, come out and pace me. You have to see this race. It would be awesome to see you do it, one day. And let's just go have like an awesome experience. And I feel like, because Western States is such a dream for so many people, it feels like a gift for me to be able to offer the experience to someone in that way, to offer like to pace. And that makes me happy, because I know he's just going to be like a little kid out there, like, experiencing all of it. And like, that's so fun to be with somebody that's experiencing Western States for the first time. Yeah. So, and like I said, he's a very strong runner. So I know I have that confidence in him just running with me out there. I think it'll be a really cool experience for us. I, of course, wanted Mackenzie to, like I said, depending on her knee, she'd pace some of those short sections in the race. Yeah. But other than Nick doing Forest Hill to Green Gate, I had already decided I wasn't going to have any pacers. At first, I was just going to have you, Isaiah, and Mackenzie, and then I was just going to go have no pacers at all. I think because I've been doing this sport for a while and racing primarily overseas, they don't let you have pacers. So like UTMB is a great example. That's a 106-mile race, 36,000 feet of climbing and 36,000 feet descending, and you don't get a pacer there. So I think, like I said earlier, like, the more you do something, like, your perception changes and you realize, like, wait, I actually don't need a pacer. But there is positives to having a pacer, especially if you are in a slump or you're moving a little bit slower than you wanted to, or you're really tired. I mean, pacers can keep you awake and perk you up and encourage you and get you moving and keep you on pace and on top of your nutrition. So as of now, I just have Nick pacing me. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, a follow-up question is, well, it's kind of a three-part actually. Why is your crew the best? More specifically, me. And why did you not ask me to pace you? Those are the next three questions.
Well, why don't you tell me why I wouldn't ask you to pace? What are some guesses?
I'm a little hurt that you'd ask someone that has a knee injury before you'd ask me who's healthy.
Well. I do think I'm going to have the best crew out there because, first and foremost, I think that we're going to have the mostest fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because whenever we're together, we have a good time.
Yeah.
So
no, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I feel grateful having you out there with me, just because the last 2 years, especially, you've had to do some pretty intense crewing.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a very different experience for you.
Yeah.
It was like when we did the Jackpot Ultra.
Yeah.
And like
That's
you're
right.
like, this isn't even crewing. I'm going for a run. Like you went running.
I literally put out like some snacks on top of that.
Yeah.
Container.
Like you and I were laughing about it because you're like, this is so different from everything else that you've had to do the last couple of years, from Badwater to the Chew Strong project to Crewing 200. I mean, Crewing 200 is just next level. It's not easy at all. So I'm just really stoked because I have so much confidence in you and just how well you know me. But Nick and his team will be out there, crewing too. They're going to have some cameras and stuff. We've already talked about how there's going to be a couple films that come out of this one race, which is, I'm really excited about. Billy's doing a film. BPN is going to do a film. So yeah, I think we just have like a solid crew going out there. We have some newbies, people experience the first time. And then we have, you that I feel like if it was just you all by yourself, I'm stoked.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it just because, I mean, I've been around Western states, talk and seen you train for it. And I feel like I know a lot about it, but I've never actually crewed it. So it'll be a cool experience for me, to be in the thick of it, the whole race. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, so I got some little bit lighthearted questions, not as serious, but definitely good questions that I'm sure people would love to hear. What's going to be your pre-race meal in Olympic Valley Friday night? Have you thought about that?
My pre-race meal is typically always the same, and we have a little kitchen where we're staying.
Yes.
So it'll be rice, sweet potatoes, and either salmon or chicken.
Basics.
Yeah, pretty basic.
Pretty basics.
If I'm not feeling that, I always just do a couple peanut butter banana sandwiches.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's the night before. That's like dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
in the morning.
Pre-race meal. The morning is there's one or two things I love, and I'll just have both of them out, which is what I feel like eating. But I do a banana mash, so I smash a banana like in a mug or a bowl, and I do like 1 to 2 big scoops of peanut butter, mix that up, and it's just like this fat calorie carb bomb. I also like just oatmeal, and then peanut butter toast with banana on top. I'll have a couple of those, but that's been the go-to for years.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What about the shoes, the gear? What shoes are you going to be wearing as you toe the line?
This year I'm going to be using the Nike Trail Ultra Fly. It drains really well. It is light. It's fast. I don't feel like I need as much of a beefy shoe as I did when I used the Zagama. Nike's currently working on a new shoe. It's the Wild Horse 10. I think I have like 9 renditions of it right now, which is wild because when I ran Western States for the first time 10 years ago, I was in the Wild Horse 1.
That is crazy.
And they were working on the 2, and they said, Sally, would you consider wearing this at Western States? And I was like, the problem with it is after I hit like 30 or 40-ish miles, my metatarsals like ache. And we began this discussion about a rock plate, what we could do to make this thing more enduring, for 100 miles, because people were wearing it for a 50K, even 50 mile, they felt okay. But I was like, I can't take this for 100 miles. So they sent me down like 8 or 9 renditions of the Wild Horse 2. And they're like, dude, after you wear this, like, this is what is going to come out next year. And that was really cool because the way they made it was when they sent down all the different pairs, it was different on the inside. So from the outside, you couldn't see all the differences. But so I had to test all the different pairs. And then I chose a pair for race day. And then the following year, the Wild Horse 2 came out. So every year, especially those first 3 or 4 years, I always worked with the designers with the Wild Horse. Like that was like my shoe. And I loved that shoe. I've worn it all over the world every year. And so it's pretty exciting. They're working on the Wild Horse 10. It just didn't finish fast enough for me. So typically the way that I train and the way I choose my gear, I have to be able to train in the shoe for 2 months straight. And if I can't do that, then I won't choose the shoe. So the shoe that they have sent me out, the rendition they sent me out, the most recent one, they just sent it out like a week and a half ago. And I was like, dude, unfortunately, that's not enough time. But it is amazing. I love it. It's an incredible shoe. It feels amazing. I am going to bring it as a backup shoe, just in case, because I do like it. I've gone on several runs trying different prototypes. They keep changing different things, but yeah, I'm excited about what it's going to be. I would have loved to wear it for the race, because how cool to wear Wild Horse 1 all the way to Wild Horse 10. Cool, but it's been neat just being a part of the journey of the Wild Horse 10 and seeing. It was last year. I think it started almost 2 years ago. Sally, like, what should we do? Do you have any input? How could we create this? And last year at Western States, when I was pacing Hella, the whole Nike team was up there. The design team was up there, and they gave me the first prototype of it. And I hopped around in it at their little chalet out on the balcony there, and ran around in it. And I was like, this is amazing. It's very different from the one. I will say that. But it's a great shoe, and I'm super excited about it. So I think when all is said and done, that will definitely be the shoe I go back to and probably wear most often.
Nice.
But for this race, Ultrafly 1.
Ultrafly 1. All right, I'm gonna play you something here.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
See if you can hear this.
Okay.
Hold on.
Will they be able to hear it?
Yes.
Let's go. Let's go.
Listen to that intro. All right, so the reason I'm playing that is because, I've seen you dance to that song, and nothing gets you grooving more than that song. So besides Burning Down the House by the Talking Heads, what other songs are going to pump you up as you come into the aid station? What songs do you want me to play to get you moving?
It takes two to make it outside.
All right, let me add that one to the list.
This is our song, babe, right here. Let's go. Yeah.
We
got a Rob bass and DJ Easy Rock, baby.
Can't go wrong with some Rob bass.
Oh my gosh. It's we were actually like little kids when those came out, but they're just fun music from that era, right?
Good tunes.
It's just good, fun tunes.
Makes you smile.
It makes you smile.
Yep.
So if I come into an aid station and any of those things are playing, just know that you're going to turn that frown upside down. Okay. If there happens to be a frown.
There will be no frown on your face.
There will be no frown. I don't
think
so.
That's impossible for you.
I'm so grateful to be at this race. We're going to be very enthusiastic and happy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Speaking of race day and just being happy, this might be more of a selfish question, but what snacks are you planning to bring? Maybe, in the race bag or leaving back with your crew.
What are you getting at, Ed? You want to know what snacks I have that you'll be pilfering from my sack?
Well, you gonna bring extra, or what do we got?
Yesterday I was going through all my lists. I make a list of everything.
Yeah.
I'll do a race kit list. I even do my everyday wear clothes. I do my gear. I do my nutrition for me, my nutrition for my crew.
Ooh.
Yeah. I do all, everything. I break it all down.
Oh, yeah.
A little meticulous there.
Yep.
And for those of you listening, you're welcome. It
You're
does
welcome.
help, though.
Yeah.
And so a few things that I wrote down. Pringles.
Thank you.
Sour worms.
There we go. So far, so
Red
good.
vines. Coca-Cola.
Oh, man. This is going to be a great race.
Mashed potatoes. French press coffee. Yeah. Those are like standard. Those have to be in the bag.
Those are good whether you're racing or not. those are.
It's funny how much gummies I eat in a race.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think on one hand I can kind of like suck on them and it's just a different texture. I think that's part of it too. Like you've been drinking your nutrition, you've been getting these gels in, and then you put like a sour gummy worm in your mouth, and I like that it's the
hits
sweet
different.
and it just kind of hits different, and sometimes it can kind of wake you up a little bit, a little sugar rush, but yeah, I think throughout the years I've learned my lesson to not just bring the one nutrition that I've been training with. It's good to have a variety. And I've been surprised too. I'll come into aid stations and things that I'm, I buy it in the store the race weekend thinking, oh, I'll totally want this. And then I see it throughout the race. I'm like, I'm going to vomit if you try to give me that.
Oh, yeah.
So, but, yeah, that's why I think it's good to have variety, because sometimes I'll lean into something that I didn't think that I wanted and just eat all of that. And then other times, I'll surprise myself and be eating a ton of stuff out of the aid station. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of eating,
my favorite thing to do.
How many donuts will you consume the day after the race?
It depends on where the donuts are from, because if you are, if it's sidecar, I will eat several sidecar donuts.
Yeah.
That is like my all-time favorite donut shop.
Yeah.
I love sidecar.
Yeah.
Or just donut shops that are like that. So for those of you who are listening,
specialty, right?
They make, they're specialty donuts. They make them right there. And so you walk in at any time of the day and they're baking these donuts. And one of my favorite is the butter and salt. They also have this maple bacon that's incredible. And then they also have like a daily featured donut, and it could be anything from lemon meringue pie to, cookie dough explosion. I don't know, but it's not like it's not like Voodoo Donuts. If you're familiar with Voodoo Donuts, that, they're kind of like the Voodoo Donuts. They're like mass produced, and they have like Oreo cookies smashed on top and Fruit Loops, and they're in weird, crazy shapes and stuff like that. These are like specialty handcrafted donuts that they tell you these aren't going to be good tomorrow. Like there's no preservatives in them. You got to eat them hot and fresh. And so I love that.
What if your only option was to just go to the mom and pop shop down the street and you had like
no complaints,
3 choices? You had like the maple bar, you got the sugar donut, or you got like the plain one. How many let me tell you, can you consume
when
after
I say
a race?
Sidecar, I sound really bougie, and I'm not a bougie person. I'm happy with the pink box.
Okay.
The pink box makes me happy, and I love a good old maple bar.
Oh.
I love a good old maple old fashioned.
Ooh, yeah.
Or glazed old fashioned or chocolate. I love old fashioned.
Yep.
I love a good old glazed twist.
Yeah.
And I'm the weirdo that likes the lemon filled powdered donut.
You are very weird. You are very weird.
Yeah, donuts are my jam. It's like the one thing, we all have our thing, like our vice, that one thing that if a doctor said, hey, you can't eat that anymore, that we would be sad. Listeners, think about that one thing is. So for some people, it might be steak. That's like their thing. Chips and salsa. Maybe it's like ice cream. For me, it's donuts. I could give up everything else. But if you said donuts, I think I would shed a little tear.
Yeah, a little tear? Yeah. No, it would be full streams. All right, so a couple more questions here, and we're going to finish and wrap this up. But
alrighty.
How are your nerves right now as we are a little under 5 days out here? How are you feeling? Where are you at with everything?
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm anticipating everything going into this race. So we're actually going to, be there on Wednesday because we have a couple media things that we're doing. And I think that I'm even nervous about those. So our friends over at Single Track, Finn, we're doing an interview with him on Wednesday. And then our buddy Dylan Bowman is kicking off TrailCon. So if you're in the Valley, if you're going to be at Western States, make sure you get a ticket for TrailCon. But I'm even nervous about that. So that's on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thursday we'll be meeting with the team and going over crew stuff. I'm meeting with Nike to go over some, they always bring their product designers and innovative team up there, and we talk about stuff that's happening and being created, and we get to try on product and just, talk with the team and hang out. So, that's all happening on Thursday. Then Friday, it's time to pick up the bib, do packet pickup. That's when the race meeting is. And then it's like you go to bed and the next morning, Saturday morning, it's go time.
Yeah.
So I get nervous, and I actually am nervous, like historically in every race for the first 10 miles. But it's more just like race excitement, like jitters. Like I care so much about it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be there. It takes about 10, 15 miles before I actually like settle into, okay, we're racing.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is, the journey has started.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for that. I think if I ever lose that, then, that's a sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a sign I need to consider. But I am glad I still get excited about racing and just about the journey ahead. There's also a piece of me that I think, because the Grand Slam, it actually was physically very painful. And I knew that going into every race, that at some point it would be almost unbearable, just because I couldn't do anything about my feet.
Yeah.
There wasn't like another shoe or any amount of bandages that was I had to heal, So I knew it wasn't until I took an off season that my feet would like heal completely. And so, there's a little like piece of me where it's like that, that like beat me up mentally, like quite a bit. And I know that Western States is like, I know at some point I'm going to be incredibly uncomfortable. But it's also something I'm grateful for. And I say that in a very like lighthearted way, because this is a race.
Yeah.
This is something I signed up for. This is something I've prepared for. And so discomfort is a part of it. That's just a part of getting to the finish line. It's not something that I'm dreading or I feel forced to do or that I've been dragged into. It's just a different kind of discomfort. Like, you're really grateful that you can go there, because you get to push yourself to a whole new limit and see what's possible. But it's not fun when you're experiencing it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited all around. I think I would say I have all the same race jitters and excitement that, the next person has.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can say, sitting across from you today, that I'm pumped. I'm excited to be out there with you and kind of get the front row seat and cheering you on. And I know everybody at home listening to the podcast, and they're all gonna be cheering for you, wearing yellow. And
wear yellow on race day. Like I said, whether you're out on your own run, cycling, you're lifting weights, you're cheering on the sidelines to your kid's soccer game, put on that yellow and know that I'll appreciate it, but also it's a reminder to you to keep working towards your goals with big hope. Your goals matter. What you do matters. And keeping hope alive in the midst of all of that is so powerful, because that's what I'll be doing on race day, is I'll be hopeful all the way through that finish line. No matter the circumstance, I do commit to keep moving forward and giving my best, 110%. And, as I've said before, I'm going to stand really proudly on that start line, knowing I represent all the people who take care of others, who work full time, who are in school full time, and are constantly working toward a dream. I see you and I appreciate you, and I hope to do you well on race day, because anything is possible if we just don't give up.
That's it.
And
Yep, that's it. Well, I appreciate you, Sal, sitting down with me and going over these
You did a great
questions.
job.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Man, we're looking forward to this weekend and cheering you on. And you never know what's going to happen out there, right? Just you put in the work and you see what happens. So I'm excited to see what happens. So,
Well, I'm very grateful to have you by my side. From mile 1 to 100.
1 to 100. Let's go.
We're gonna go write a good story, Ed.
Yep, it's gonna be fun. So, all right.
Yeah.
Any last things you want to share with the audience today before we leave?
Just some very basic ones because people do ask how to follow the race.
Yes.
And so first and foremost, on YouTube, there is a Western States channel. So you can literally just type that in. I know Eddie's going to share all the links. He will have access to my Yellow Runner Instagram, which he loves so much on race day.
Oh, really?
So make sure you follow the Yellow Runner Instagram just in the days leading up to the race and during the race for any updates. Eddie will have like some more intel and more like up-to-date stuff on my race. Like I said, you know, you probably won't see me like in the live feed and all the updates and stuff like that. But Eddie will have some insight and will be able to update like my own personal race through the Yellow Runner Instagram. But I do encourage you, get in the chat room on the Western States channel and please, you know, cheer on everybody that is racing, especially those incredible front runners on the men's and women's side.
Mm-hmm.
I do just want to also say like the coverage is so difficult to get. I'm just absolutely amazed by what they are able to do out there. So any words of support that you can give to the commentators and the people flying drones and the camera guys that are literally running miles and miles alongside these runners to offer that coverage, like any encouragement, I know that they really appreciate. Eddie and Mackenzie will be in the chat room throughout the race. So if ever you're thinking of us or you see Eddie in there, you can throw up a yellow heart or anything yellow in the chat and we'll know that that you're cheering for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do appreciate that. Eddie will be doing a takeover of my Yellow Runner Instagram, and he'll be there as well as the Choose Strong podcast Instagram. But if you guys share any stories or have any words of encouragement, you can post those in your stories. And Eddie will share those in my Instagram and I will get to see them on the next day. So that's one of my favorite things to do is just go back and interact with the community and see what you guys were doing on race day. So if you want to send words of encouragement or post a picture of your activity or just yourself wearing yellow or any of that, you know, we know the whole True Strong community would love to see it. And so you can post it in the Strava, post it on Instagram, and we'll do our best to gather all those up and start sharing them as well. But just know, no matter what, your prayers and cheering mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, take us out, Sal. Take us out.
Will.
How are we going to end this sucker?
We're going to end
Let's do
this by acknowledging everyone that lasted this long.
Yeah, about 2 hours in. Yeah.
This is another very long podcast. And I just want to say again how proud I am of you working toward your goals. If you're out there running, well done.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless if you're running or not, Eddie and I are very grateful just to have this community and to be able to talk with you, to encourage you in whatever it is that you are doing. And we're really excited to share this this upcoming journey with you, Eddie. It's been like since Moab that we've been able to talk about like a big adventure or a race. And I know that those are some of our favorite things
those are fun,
to do together. And Eddie and I have already kind of been making a little dream list of some things that we have planned in the coming months and even in 2025 that that we are going to be checking off our list. But it's been really fun to be able to share these stories because what we've been getting back are people sharing their stories with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it's about is,
Yep.
you know, we share these stories to encourage you to live out your life. Not that it needs to look like ours, not that you need to go and run ultras or even run it all, but that you need to remember that your story is valuable and that your life is full of purpose and that whatever you're working toward, it matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want you to know when we hear from you, it inspires us. And when you share with others in your community or just right there in your home, you don't even have to have social media. Know that every connection that you make is really powerful and it can cause a magnificent a domino effect all around you. And so we just want to remind you of that today, and to remind you to keep choosing strong in all you do.